Welcome to Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 190. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. Computer Repair Podcast is brought to you by FreshBooks, the simple, pain-free invoicing solution for freelancers and small business owners. Try it free at freshbooks.com/podnuts. This is our live call-in show for Computer Repair Techs. We answer your questions on running and operating your computer repair business. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce the co-host. We have Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech team. How you doing, Chris?
You know what? I'm feeling fantastic. I'm wearing my Jays shirt. Got my Jays shirt going on here. We're 13-1 right now, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm sorry if there's any Cleveland fans out there, but
I don't even know what any of that means. But okay.
It's baseball, man. Baseball.
Baseball, hockey,
Whatever.
Football, foosball. I don't care.
Just move on to the next person.
Also joining us today, we have Marvin Bee from MB Systems. How you doing, Marvin?
Holla.
And joining us yet again, we just seem to be cross-platforming a lot. We have Paco Lebron from Prodigy Techs and that other podcast. How you doing, Paco?
Better than good, better than most.
Awesome, man. Good to have everybody on here today. All right, first thing we want to talk about is a while back, if you guys remember, we had Pulse Printing and Promotions was advertising on the show, and they did a couple giveaways. So I just got the information today from Darren Ney over there, and the winner of the second set of cards is Chris Chamley with Friendly Computer Center. So congratulations, Chris. Hope those business cards work out for you as far as getting them out to your customers and growing your business. And also in talking to Darren, we'll have some things coming down the pike here where we're going to be talking about some consumer-ended products here shortly that I think you will all be interested in. All right, we have the Toronto Unconvention, July 22nd through the 24th, 2016. So how many days away is that, gentlemen? I was going to do the math, and I totally forgot.
19 days.
21?
About 21 days? Okay.
If it's the 24th, it would be 21.
Oh, it's the 22nd, so 3 days. So like 18 days, 19 days, something like
7.
that.
4? 4.
62.
Canadian math.
Right.
Anyways, it is less than a month away. We're talking a few short weeks here. If you guys have not gotten your tickets yet, I think there's going to be a lot of good information for you if you are wanting to grow your business and rub shoulders with people who can not only help you out, but you can also help out by being a part of the group. We're going to have a great time. Like we said before, it's going to be a smaller, more intimate group, and I think we're going to get some good stuff out there. What I've noticed is, and there will be people out there that will totally 100% disagree with me, and there will be people that will 100% disagree with me. So only the ones that agree with me, or I'm sorry, they will agree with me. Only ones that agree with me I actually like. The other ones I don't care about.
Oh,
but what
crap.
what I'm going to say is that I don't care if you've been in this business for over 20 years, which there's a lot of people that you guys have seen on the show that have been. There's a lot of people that have been on here less. But the reality is, even having over 20 years of experience in this business, there are always things you can improve on. If you don't think there's something you can improve on, you know what? Take a shovel, start digging the ground, and just lay in there because you're done. Because there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to discover and figure out how it's going to work for you. Times are changing all the time. I've been in several businesses over the years, and things have always changed. They never stayed the same. So with that being said, I think this is a great opportunity that we can all get together and just share some time with fellow techs, get a little away time, and learn some new things. And I think it's going to be great. What do you guys think?
About needing to learn? Yeah, I mean, you never stop learning in this environment. And you can't really learn on your own. So, I think something like the Unconvention and some of the online forums and all of that, they're great ways to be able to really reach out and just learn. And I mean, even if you don't learn anything, but you make that connection with somebody, it's going to be a great learning opportunity later on down the road.
And I think the friendships too. I think if you guys will probably agree with me that a lot of people, it's different when you're meeting somebody live versus on Memorex. I mean, on the internet. it's just a lot different. There's a different dynamic. It's a little more relaxed, and I think Marvin, you brought this up before, where you said, hey, we're going to have all kinds of time that you're going to be able to interact with people that we may not get on shows like this or things we do online, webinars and stuff like that, right?
Well, yeah, because obviously you have the opportunity to dig deeper, and you know, outside of the sessions that we have scheduled, there's really not going to be that time restriction that you only have a minute to ask a question and a minute to answer. So the sessions have been designed that we can have much longer conversations, and because you're not trying to compete with 1,000 other things as part of the conference, we're going to have time in between sessions, during the meals, after hours, that you're going to have that time to really sit and engage with people.
Yep. So if you guys have ever wondered the deep thoughts of a person like Marvin Bee or Paco Lebron or Chris Carruthers or Mike Smith or whomever, if you wondered the deep thoughts that roll around in their heads, be careful, because some of those deep thoughts you might not want to really actually know. But some of the good ones that they actually use on a regular basis, you're going to get that time where you're going to be able to sit with them and just hang out.
As a disclaimer, we do not provide reimbursement for therapy.
Well, if you watch this show, this is all the therapy you need.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's go on with this. Paco, since you're back from wherever you were from, why don't you share one tip or story with us that we could learn from?
One that happened recently is to review your contracts, because we had a situation with our website provider where we thought we had an agreement as far as what we had for the fee that we were paying, which we have in writing via email, confirming all the details. And a year and a half later, come to find out that supposedly is not part of the package that we purchased. So because of that, we are basically not dealing with it and making a transition to another provider, which, if everyone probably knows, is the tech site builder.
Oh, so this was your website, and so what were if you can go into somewhat specifics on what that entails as far as what you thought you had versus what you actually had.
So essentially, we were told when we first got the package that we would get, because I'm very lazy, so I went ahead and purchased a website, and they created the website, and they would do all the maintenance and unlimited changes per month for this monthly fee. So hosting, unlimited changes after the site was deployed, and we've been making changes, and we've emailed their support like they've asked for the past year and a half with no problems. And we sent a change probably over the last week. The president of the company emailed saying, hey, your rep is out on vacation, but I'm going to talk with him and he will get back to you. And the rep got back to me saying, hey, your package actually doesn't have this. So I went ahead and replied back, letting him know, hey, that's not true. I have an email stating otherwise, and here's the month and a half long of tickets that we've sent in. And the reply was, they're constantly auditing accounts, and this was a time where they audited the account to find that it was not the package that was said to have.
Okay, so that was more an internal thing on their part between basically the higher ups and whatever whatever rep you had been talking to and stuff like that. Okay.
Exactly. So essentially now it's we're in a position to be able to cut costs and move over to another platform, and that's what we're doing now.
Very cool. Yeah, contracts are, especially when you're making special deals and stuff like that. I always err on the side, even if I make a mistake, and err on the side of, hey, this is what I said, or this is what was perceived to be said. Even if somebody says, hey, here's what you really said, I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll go ahead with that. But then, maybe I'll make a cutoff date or something like that in the future. To adjust that, say, hey, we can't continue along this route, even though this is what we discussed for a set period of time. But I wouldn't just go, yeah, sorry, you can't do nothing about it.
I mean, the contract itself too should have had a provision of like, either party can make changes or cancel as long as they give X number of days notice. That would have been a perfect opportunity to basically be like, look, yeah, we screwed up, so listen, for the next X number of days, we're gonna give you the unlimited that you thought that you signed up for, but after that, we're gonna go with the actual contract, so you can decide what you want to do from there.
Right.
Yep. So Tuesday they'll be getting a 30-day notice of cancellation. So.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Okay, and Mr. Marvin Bee, what do you got for us this week?
Well, it was a pretty uneventful. Well, I can't say uneventful. Stuff happened. Just nothing I really want to share on the air.
That's never a good sign.
But one of the things that has not happened yet is that one of my customers asked me to consider some alternative backup options. They are one of my customers that have multiple sites. We are backing up at their main location. We're not backing up the way that I want, because currently we only have a local backup, and it's not a full backup, meaning it's not imaging their servers or anything like that. It's just their data.
Is that even a backup?
It's a copy.
Okay. We'll call it that. That sounds good.
No. And they've got some NAS boxes in other offices that they want backed up. So using the internal backup of the box, I won't give the name, it would cost them about $300 per month per box to do the backup.
Okay.
A cloud, just a straight cloud backup direct from the NAS to the cloud. So that's my first option to use, and then my second option is my newfound backup disaster recovery friend. We all know her as Dado. So I priced out. What was that?
Her.
Well, I didn't want to say him and have you guys even laugh harder. But I priced out a transfer of their current NAS solution to a Dado NAS solution with 1 year cloud backup retention, and it actually came out to be about half, with a much better backup solution. And they kind of balked at the price and blah blah blah. So the decision isn't entirely no, because we still have to come up with some sort of backup. But one of the things that I really started thinking about is, I started forcing backup on my customers a while back. Most of them will have not only a local backup to a NAS device or some other backup medium, but they're going to have a cloud retention backup with versioning, with multiple snapshots and stuff like that. And this is one of those customers that I'm going to have my conversation with that, one of the statements that I've always pushed is that my first responsibility is to your network and your data. So that if anything else happens, of course I'm going to try to make everything work, have there be no downtime, make sure your internet stays up, make sure your server never, crashes, make sure your applications aren't slow or whatever. But the first thing I've got to do is always find a way to protect that. And so that's a discussion that I'm going to have with them. And it was funny because I just came across a passage in that. I'm going to hold this up, and I know that for people that are audio, this means nothing. But there's a book that I got a long, long time ago called The Diary of a Small Business Owner. And one of the sections in there talks about a time where her server went down and they lost about 6 months of data. And it was just a whole thing where the book talks about lessons learned from each thing that she goes through. And lesson number 41 is the cost of bad decisions. And basically she talks about the fact that that computer lesson cost her $4,100 in cash that she didn't have in almost 3 weeks of downtime.
Ooh.
And so I just wanted to kind of, reiterate to everybody that I'm re-emphasizing to my customers the importance of their data, their backup, and trying to get them to do the best backup solution where, you know, it's one that's got to take care of them. It's got to be local. It's got to be cloud. It's got to be, you know, able to be retained for 6 months because, you know, that whole Dropbox as a server debate that we've been having isn't a backup.
Right.
So
No, that's
been
good.
my week.
That's good, and I think it really comes down to our job is really to protect our customers, right? And when we're doing that, yes, things do cost money, but it goes back to the seatbelt analogy. I never wear a seatbelt in my car. I mean, I always wear a seatbelt, but I don't wear it because I think that I am going to get in an accident. And matter of fact, I plan on never, ever getting in an accident. That's my plan. Now, whether that's true or not, it all depends on all the other stupid drivers out there.
Yep.
So, but the reality is, I'm still going to wear that seatbelt because, and people will tell you all the time, "Well, I was not wearing a seatbelt once, and you know, I survived, and if I was wearing my seatbelt, I would have gotten hung up by it." And I'll be honest with you, I've rolled a car off the expressway at about 70 miles an hour with no seatbelt on, and ended up upside down, and a spare tire sitting next to me. And I was fine. But the reality is, it could have been a whole lot different. And no, I was not drinking, just so any of you curious out there, it has nothing to do with that. They tested me and everything.
So they could improve it. Got it.
That's right. Walk the line. Yes. A, B, C, D. Oh, yeah. Okay, so anyways, the reality is you want to be able to have these safety nets, or like we've talked about before, insurance, a type of insurance. Again, we pay so much money for insurance, car insurance, house insurance, medical insurance, all these different insurances, unless you're in Canada. Then you probably don't pay any of those things. But just kidding,
Yeah,
just
whatever.
kidding. Stop throwing stones. So the reality is you want to have these insurances in place, and backing up data is one of them. Now, Marvin, let me ask you, is this a law office, or what type of business are they doing there?
Yes, it is.
So it's a law office, and they're still balking at the price, yet they would virtually be out of business for said period of time if they lost a chunk of data.
Well, pretty much, or they lose a nice, you know, $1 million lawsuit.
See, that astounds me. What is the thought process? So here's lawyers, and obviously they don't want to pay anything. Nobody wants to pay for things.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. Is we're in a time right now where, you know, nobody wants to pay for anything because the cost of everything should be coming down, right? Technology is supposed to be making things better and cheaper at the same time.
Yeah.
Except for your houses and your car, because those are status symbols, and we'll pay whatever, you know, we'll
That's
overpay
right.
for those things. You know? But
true. It is true.
for the thing that actually makes us money, no. We, you know, the commoditization of tech is really an issue right now, and you know, everybody hears about, yeah, I can get a terabyte, you know, of backup data for $9.99 a month, you know, $9.99 a month, and that's all I need.
Right.
And nobody looks at the fine line and says, well, what kind of a backup is that?
Yeah.
And how long will it take you to get your data back if you need it? Because, you know, some of them, while they're cheap backup solutions, they're, you know, it may take you 2 weeks to download your data because of your internet speed, because they're not going to send you your data on a drive.
Right.
You know, that sort of a thing. And, you know, it's the whole, it's not just backup, it's computers. I mean, everybody wants the cheapest computers.
Yep.
You know, everybody wants the cheapest internet.
Then they're mad when 6 months later the thing is so dog slow and not working the way that they want it to.
Yep.
Or didn't check the backup when they said they would check the backup, and they didn't want to pay for your service to check it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah,
it's a joy. It's a joy.
I hear you there.
You know, and of course, you know, Windows 10 is free, so why should I have to pay you to install it for me?
Because you're going to do it wrong. That's why.
Because you're going to pay me twice as much to fix it after.
That's right. Well, you know, that's the problem, though, Chris. That the cold, hard reality is most of us are not charging twice the amount to fix that problem, and that becomes a problem. And I'm going to say across the field. There are some of us that do that, but for the most part, no. So it's like no harm, no foul. People can try it. If it doesn't work out, then you might have to pay something.
Now here's the way that I did it. Like, you want me to upgrade you to Windows 10? No problem. Flat rate $89. I'll take care of it.
Right.
You upgraded to Windows 10 and didn't fix it? All right, can you get on the internet? No. All right, it's going to be $129 an hour for me to drive out there.
Nice.
That's the reality of it. So
Right.
I don't say it to be mean. I don't do it to come down on the client, but pay me to do it right in the first place. It's going to be a lot cheaper.
Right. Exactly. All right, Chris, why don't you go ahead and roll into your tip or story for this week?
Sure. My story, I'm coming back to the backup thing. So I received notification that accountant's hard drive that I sent out, they finished recovering everything, which was fantastic. It was a $1,400 recovery, plus the cost of the hard drive to copy everything onto it to send back. And you know what? My client was very happy with it. I received an email praising the service that they received, so that's fantastic. And then I said, great, when the drive comes in, then we can get you set up on a proper backup and we'll be good to go. And the response there was, oh, I went and got an external hard drive.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That
So
they'll maybe or maybe not use.
Right. So I guess the tip there is that you shouldn't be surprised when the better solution isn't chosen over price, even if they've been bitten.
Right. No, it's the same thing. It's that perception out there. It's just like our fees, right? We talk about this all the time. We talk about our pricing and going, we all know. Call a plumber, roofer, remodeler, HVAC person, whatever, out to your house and see what you pay them just to talk to you.
That's right.
Just to talk.
Definitely got to get that roofer in there.
I mean, it's like free diagnostics, free that, and some of that stuff is fine. It's, loss leader stuff. But the reality is other industries get paid a lot of money. And when you think about people, I mean, I've had people near tears because they're looking for a job, their computer's down, it's infected, ransomware, whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. And so you come in and you try to console them and try to save the day as best you can. But a lot of that stuff, it's like, hey, you know what? You're going to have to start over. And a little preventative maintenance would have went a long way. But again, people don't want to deal with that until they're smacked upside the head. And then, like you said, Chris, sometimes that doesn't even help.
Oh, for sure. Especially when they wind up with the Walmart special, right?
Mm.
Well, why would I spend $130 fixing this computer when it only cost me $400 in the first place?
Right.
Because buying a $400 computer is not going to get your data back.
Right. Exactly.
It's not going to remove the virus. So you're going to get a new computer, you're going to transfer the data over, and then you're still going to be infected. And it would have been cheaper to just fix this one.
Yep.
So, I think that Marvin, you absolutely hit it on the head. It's a computer, instead of being a tool, has become a commodity, and so people look at it as a commodity instead of a tool. And the minute you start doing that, the minute you look at technology as a disposable product, is when you don't take care of it, you don't maintain it, and it costs you a lot more money down in the long run to get less performance.
Yep, I agree. A lot of people don't see that. I will look at a machine, and depending on what the machine has in it, even if it's 4 years old sometimes, and to me that's on the fence.
Yeah.
But if you've got a 4-year-old machine that's a Core i5, you have 6 gigs of RAM, and your hard drive died, okay, in that I'm going to estimate that we're going to replace the hard drive. And it's going to be better than what you can go out and get today, or whatever that model was at the time. And everything works just fine, except for your hard drive, and we'll replace all that. So, yeah, it's perception, I think, is 9/10 of the law. Well, I talked about last week on recovering data. Go figure. On a 10-year-old, right around a 10-year-old XP laptop. And my bench computer for like 5 days straight was, literally, it was turning the drive on, turning it off. I don't know what it was doing, but it kept freezing the computer up. Not the computer, but the program that was recovering the data.
Right.
Good news, after all was said and done, I recovered all the data. There was maybe a handful of pictures of JPEGs that were corrupted, like
There you go.
unrecoverable. But the rest of the stuff, it was all there. Everything was documents, PDFs, all the other all the other hundreds and hundreds of JPEGs. Everything was there. Videos. So I called the customer and said, "Hey, got your stuff?" No problem. He's like, "Oh, really cool." So we don't have to send it out or anything like that, and he can get his data back. But
So that's a good question that I have, and
Yeah.
for everyone. So when you do a data recovery like that, obviously we know there's going to be a high chance there's going to be either a good portion or a majority of corruption on a lot of the data that they do if you do data recovery simply, right? Like Chris, I know you just send it out, right? Because you don't want to bother with.
Well, that depends.
Okay.
But sorry, continue.
So let's say you plug it in, you don't have it auto-mounted, you have a data recovery software, you see the documents, you start doing the extraction, right? So when you look at the extraction, how do you explain to the customer that if any choice that they pick, if you have options of doing the data recovery, do you explain to them that, hey, the data recovery may not provide all the data back, whether they go to a facility or it's done by you? And where I'm going with this is, so when you let them know, hey, we possibly got 75% of your data, or hey, we pulled all your data, but because of liability reasons, we can't go through your data to find out what's corrupted and what's not. How do you expect payment for full? Like, how do you set that expectation in the front when doing that data recovery service?
Well, I'll tell you from my standpoint, I'll be honest with you. I look at it like that. Now, different people do different things, and I'm one of these people. My first level is I'm going to try.
Right.
That's all I promise you. I'm going to try, and this is what I do. And I throw it on a bench. I have, I've got several benches, so it's not like I'm worried about tying the one bench up, or I don't have this. I don't have a storefront type business where I've got, a bunch of things coming in every day. It's a nice steady flow, but I've got other machines I can use for whatever. And one of the things that I do is I'll look at it and go, hey, here's what I'm getting back, or I can't even get the drive to spin, or whatever. So I'll get that initial look. I'll let the software do its thing. If the software can get and I charge just a flat diagnostic fee. I charge $40, okay, just for me to look at it, try, right?
Right.
And I tell them that up front. It's $40, and I'll look at it. If I'm not getting any data back, or I can't do it at the level that I do it, which is the lower level, then I explain to them, listen, we're not going to be able to do this here. What we can do is we've got several options to send that drive out and get the information back. 9 times out of 10, it's really not that important to most people.
Right.
So for the most part, they just kind of go, nah, it's all right. So I get my $40 and we move on down the road. Now, in the past, when I first started doing this years and years ago, I wouldn't even charge $40. I'd just try. Because quite honestly, I really didn't know what I was doing, and to be honest with you, I still don't. I just make the stuff up as I go. But I'm very good at making stuff up, so it works for me. So I look at it as I'll give it the old 1-2 punch, and if that doesn't work, then we move on from there. So
Chris,
stop messing around.
That's not messing around.
Go ahead, Chris. What do you do?
So I print out a list of all the folders and files into a PDF and then send it to them. So I don't need to go through and see what's there. That's none of my business.
Right.
But the customer has every right to know what it is that I can recover before I charge them. So clients in the U.S., I'm not going to have them really ship their drive up here so that I can try and then ship it back down to the States to my recovery expert if I can't fix it. So I have U.S. clients send it directly. But up here, if I have a client that wants me to have a look at it, then I always try first with the Reclaim Me Pro. I recover everything that I can. I send them the list of the files and folders and tell them, look, this is how much effort I put into it. Here's how much I'm going to wind up charging. Plus, here's the cost of whatever it is that I'm going to put the media onto. Do you want me to do this, or are there things missing still? Because if there is, then I can send it to the third party, and we'll get a hard quote on that along with another list. So that's the way that we handle it here. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not worried about liability because they're already signing forms saying that I'm going through their computer and that I'm going to see everything that's on there regardless of what I try to do. But I don't really feel like reading through that entire list or typing it up manually. So there are command line prompts, command line text files that you can create. That's going to give you the list there, and I just put that in a PDF.
Gotcha. So this is what I do, and this is kind of in my thought because I've never had it happen to me, but I was always curious if it did happen, how I would approach it. So essentially, Drive comes in, $75 diagnostic fee. And when we explain to them, we'll let them know what tier of data recovery it'll be. So we can do what we do here. If it's just a straight transfer, there's no damage to the hard drive, and it's a straight pull, then it's $99. If I have to run RStudio on it to get the data off of it, it's $199. If I can't see the drive or the drive is not spinning, then I would refer them over to the data recovery partner that I have out in Madison, Wisconsin, because that's the closest, and they seem to be the biggest and been around for quite some time. Now, so they agree, they sign the forms, boom. Now, if I do the data recovery and I pull in exactly like you mentioned, you got the listing of all the data folders, or even if I was on the phone to explain to them what folders are intact or whatever, they pay the fee, boom, they get the hard drive. And those are the fees for just the service, not including the hardware like an external drive or them bringing their own flash drive, etc. My curiosity as far as if this were to happen, if they took it back, realized that even though the folders names and all the file names were intact, they try to open up maybe a funeral folder that they had or a wedding folder of photos that they had, and it comes out that they were all corrupted, and that's what they cared about the most, and
No,
it
that's
came back
fair.
to you.
That's fair. So I mean, you can deal with that. So I just put in instructions into the chat. It's just dir /s and then you put it into listings.txt is what I do. And that will give you a list of all of the folders, along with the folder's contents, along with the size of every file. So you're absolutely right. We're not going to verify every single file, and quite frankly, none of those companies verify every single file.
Right.
But you can verify the size of every file. So 9 times out of 10, a 0-byte file is going to be corrupt and it's not going to open. 9 times out of 10, a file that's 100 kilobytes is probably not corrupt if you're able to read it. So chances are it's going to be fine. But you're absolutely right. There's no guarantee that that file is going to open. And if it winds up being in a situation where it's like, well, this one picture doesn't open and that's the one picture that I was worried about, well, then that should be part of your questioning when you're doing a data recovery anyway.
Right.
What is important to you? I'm going to give you a list, but if you can give me the top 10 things that have to be there, you tell me what those 10 things are, I'll make sure that they open.
Yeah, so I probably do this a little bit differently, and a lot of people might cringe at this, but even when I'm copying good data over from another drive using fabs or whatever, I am still old school. I will take the 5 minutes and open up the documents folder. I will open up the pictures folder. Now I'll sit there and, but you can scroll through that stuff real quick and see, oh, did it copy? Is it there? Am I getting the thumbnail files? Everything looks good. And so I've done that for a long time where do I want to look at this stuff? Not really. But the reality is I would hate to copy something over and wipe a drive and then figure out that, because I've had this happen, not me personally, but I've had other people where they would copy things like their thumbnails and think that they had their files, or they copied a shortcut folder or what, so I've had all kinds of weird things where people have told me these stories of things that happened to them where I go, you know what, no, I'm going to verify with my eyes real quick, and I just, boom, you're only opening up 2 or 3 folders to see, okay, is stuff in here? Yep, everything looks good. And the other thing I do is I will check the old drive with the size of the picture folder, let's say, and I will check the copy and check the data size to see if the data size is the same.
So you don't retain the old drive for any length of time after sending it back? Like after giving the customer their files?
Oh, no, I do. But what I'm saying, but sometimes, but there are situations where I'm not, well, and this has been a long time. Back in the day, I probably started this habit because I was formatting a lot of drives. In other words, we weren't replacing them. So I'm backing up the data. Well, if I format that drive to reinstall the operating system, all of a sudden I'm in this position where that data is gone, and if I screwed it up and copying it, so back in the day, long time ago, I used to use fabs. I've used fabs for years.
Sure.
I used to use Fabs, and I also used to do a drag and drop copy, just because I was very, very nervous over losing somebody's data. You know,
Sure.
especially when you're talking about pictures and videos and stuff like that. That stuff is irreplaceable. So I always erred on the side of caution, and that's probably why I still look in those folders today, and just take the 5 minutes to verify size, verify I can see things inside there, and go from there. I mean, again, if you've got it, I've never had anything weird. Like
I've had some. That's why I
Yeah,
started.
you live in Chicago, though. That's normal.
Yeah, that's true. So no, because and what was even more embarrassing, it was a verification call with the customer to verify these folders. And once I read him the titles of the folders. He says, "Oh, I don't know what that one is," and we happened to go into it. It was one of those where, "Yep, you're gonna have to go ahead and verify the rest of the contents for yourself." And then I quickly realized what was in the folder, and then we kind of just ended the conversation. But like you said,
just tell him, "Hey, dude, your porn's okay. It's all right."
Well, anyway, that'll be for off air to show. But what I do is essentially like Chris says, like it's the questioning that you do. But I kind of let them know, like, hey, look, we retain the format, we retain the tree of the folders, etc. What I tell them is, due to liability, we can't go through your folders and documents, whatever. From what we can see, all the structure and the majority of the stuff is there. However, here is your original drive as well. In the event there's something that is there, or you need to, whatever's corrupted, we can give you a suggestion of a data recovery facility, or you can search for a data recovery facility as well to get the other or whatever it is that you feel is more important to grab that we could not.
Yeah.
Paco, let me say this too, and Chris, you probably know this. I have been using Reclaim Me Pro for a while, and this is probably the first time that I've actually had this old computer, and I was able to run this drive, and I just let the thing run. This is the first time, but that I've actually let the thing run all the way through, where I go, well, maybe we can get the data. And I will tell you that in the initial file structure, before you even copy anything, it will look at what's corrupt and what's not corrupt. So if something is corrupt in a file tree, the tree or a particular file, it will be in red.
Right.
And you can know that, okay, that folder is not something I want. It's going to be corrupt. We don't need to deal with that. And usually it's never, from what I've seen so far, it's usually not the pictures folder, the video folder, the documents folder. It might be some,
temp file or
file or Microsoft folder or whatever. So for the most part, as long as I can get to the documents, desktop, pictures, and videos, and if they put anything, I always ask them when I'm talking to them. I always ask, do you have anything on here that maybe you had stored in your C drive or something like that? I'll ask them. Maybe they know, maybe they don't. It doesn't really matter because I still look in there, but I at least want as much of a heads up as I possibly can. So with Reclaim Me Pro, they actually will already show you what is actually, I guess, recoverable, what looks complete, and then you can just copy before you finish scanning the rest of the drive. Start copying that complete information over. So, and it's worked out. Like I said, in this last one, there was a handful of pictures. Who knows what they were? But when I looked at them, for whatever reason, those handful were corrupted. Everything else was there.
Now, with Reclaim Me Pro, because I've been using it, so it's not like I haven't been using it. But what I didn't look at, and now that you're mentioning the being able to see after the scan, are you able to print a report? Do you know?
I think you are, but I don't know offhand. So I think you
Next
are
time
able
I get
to
a
print
drive,
that
I'll
tree.
find out.
Yeah. Some of the testing I want to do when I have time, but usually I wait till I have a real world situation to do it. So
yeah.
So yeah, our studio actually does that as well.
Okay.
And highlights them and actually crosses out the folder in red. But there has been times where it would show, valid, but when retrieving it and we try to go back into it, the file has been corrupted.
And that could be in something that is, when it's transferring to, that something's not going right from there. Or what it saw, it tried to move it over, maybe the drive was acting up that particular. Like I said, this particular drive, I'm surprised that all the stuff came back because the drive, literally the drive and the program were locking up, like it would lock up for, I want to say, hours.
Gotcha.
And I'm sitting there and it's no response, and I just let it sit. and and I'd look at it a few hours later, and it had moved, but it was stuck in a new position, and it would sit and sit and sit, and so it did its job. It absolutely did a phenomenal job in getting that data back. So, all right, let's. That was my tip or story for that. Yeah, that was a long one. Data recovery. All right, so let's go into. Let's play a voicemail real quick, and then we've got a couple of emails, and then actually let's do this since we're a little bit shy on time here. Before we go into that, let us take a quick break. Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks. It is a simple cloud accounting solution designed for small business owners to painlessly send invoices, track time, and capture expenses. Save time for most computer repair shops. It's the very thing that they always seem to be in short supply. You can say that again. Tons to do and never enough time to get it all done. The good news is our friends over at FreshBooks feel your pain and have created something to help you reclaim some of your precious time and be more productive. FreshBooks has created an amazingly simple invoicing solution for small business owners who need to focus on their work, not on their paperwork. Amen to that. Oh, and invoicing is only the beginning. FreshBooks keeps all your cash flow details in one place so you know exactly what invoices you sent, when you sent them, who paid you, and who owes you what. Their mobile app lets you take pictures of receipts and organizes them for later, which makes claiming expenses at tax time a breeze. It only takes about 30 seconds to create a really professional-looking invoice. FreshBooks can even show you how whether or not a client has looked at the invoice you've emailed, which is great because when you're calling a guy or gal and saying, "Hey, did you get my email with the invoice in it?" "Oh, no, I didn't see it." And you know they open it up. "Oh, really?" Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay. Just pay the thing, would you? You could always call their helpful support line, and you'll get to speak to a human right away, which I love because I cannot stand phone trees and literally want to stick a fork in my eye than go through another phone tree ever. So no phone trees, no annoying pre-recorded messages. They'll just get on the line and actually talk to you human to human. Best part is FreshBooks will definitely streamline how you manage this stuff on a day-to-day basis, but you'll also find that as tax time comes, you'll be so much more prepared and way less stressed. FreshBooks is offering you a free 30-day trial to try it out with no credit card required. Can't beat that deal. Go to freshbooks.com/podnuts and enter Podnutz in the How Did You Hear About Us section. I want to thank FreshBooks for sponsoring this episode of the Computer Repair Podcast. All right, let's go ahead and let's see if we can play this voicemail now. Oh, and of course, it disappeared on me. All right, here we go.
Hi, my name is Gabriel Miller. I had emailed Jeff back and forth a couple times. My business name is Kenworth Computers. I was trying to do a call-in to get on the show at some point, but then things have been pretty hectic here and busy, and I guess I just had a couple questions about the show, if there's very specific days that it's done, when I should be calling in, and things like that.
All right. Well, thank you for that voicemail. Appreciate it. So I guess to kind of go over that, we're here every Sunday, or most every Sunday. I'm sure there's going to be some holidays, and obviously the week of the On Convention we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
But most every Sunday we're here at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can call in we're usually here for about an hour, hour and a half most days on Sundays. And but if you're not around during that time, that's fine. You can also leave a voicemail, just like was left there. We have our 1-800 number is open 24/7. Call, leave a voicemail, and we will play it on the show, answer your questions live on the air the next time that we have an episode. So there's a couple other ways you can email us. Bless you. We can, or call in live on the show if you're here during this time. You can hang out in the chat room. Sometimes people ask questions in there. I don't really get to see a lot of stuff goes on in the chat room. I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing here, so a lot of times I can't see stuff in there. Best way to contact me is email, voicemail, or call live on the show, and we'll get your stuff answered. Somebody just asked me, too. They said basically that they wanted to send me an MP3. I noticed in the chat room there, and that's fine, too. You want to record an MP3? Email it to me, and I will, again, play that on the show. Not a problem. So this show is here for you guys that are out there in computer land, and basically we're here if you got a question or you want to comment about something that we talked about during the show. That's why we're here. And so we get all the feedback is why we do what we do, and it's here to help each and every one of you out there. All right, let's go into a couple of emails. This is another email from Marvin. Okay, I'm getting mad now. This is from Michael Mary.
Mad too.
Listening to Marvin, wonder why there are multi-million-dollar businesses that don't have a fluke. I've worked in some of those departments, and I can say that money makes the decision. Yeah, I hear you there. It is much easier for a department to justify paying Marvin to come in for 2 hours rather than pay for the device. Yes, it makes no sense, but a one-time consulting charge is much easier to get through the powers that be rather than a piece of equipment we want, but we won't be using every day. Marvin, what do you have to say to that?
Well, not every millionaire drives a Lamborghini, right?
Good point.
So who knows why decisions are made and not made. I do know this. I think that, first of all, we have to understand what does a fluke do and why would somebody really want to have it, because if we're talking about multi-million-dollar companies, they probably have other things in place that they don't need a fluke or a network tester, or they have another version of a network tester. They may have a tool from JDSU or T3 Innovation or one of the other names out there. Fluke isn't the only brand out there. Another thing is they might have, much higher end networking equipment where they don't need that stuff. They may have, some super high end Cisco switches where a lot of that stuff is built in. They may have servers that are designed specifically for network monitoring where they've downloaded, a SolarWinds product or Netrix product where, servers are gathering that information for them. So who knows why companies do and don't have the fluke. I do know this, that sometimes it's hard for people to wrap their head around, a piece of equipment that can easily walk out of your office. So, if you buy for instance, if we talk about the Fluke One Touch, and the price ranges from $5,000 to $10,000 for that piece of equipment, you've got 20 techs and you can't necessarily watch them all the time. Any one of those techs could walk out with that piece of equipment, and you're out. So security becomes a part of that. But I can also say this: a lot of techs probably, I don't want to say that they don't like the fluke. They think that a packet capture tool would do them just fine. Any sniffer, any Linux tool. So it's a matter of preference, I think, for a lot of techs. It is a matter of money for businesses. Again, if it's a multi-million-dollar business, they probably have a lot more things in place, and a fluke would probably be a nice enhancement for a tech, but they're probably monitoring all that stuff anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. One of the small points I brought up earlier is sometimes these companies, depending on what these techs are getting paid, and I understand what Michael's saying, it would justify if somebody has to take longer to diagnose the network itself, then they can justify that because they're not paying the person, whatever the with the fluke tax, I guess, of having the right tools, so they can use some other things that are maybe already in place. I think that a lot of times, though, it would be nice to enhance some of the skill set and be able to understand some of the things you're looking at, because I feel that there are a lot of technicians out there in many different industries, not just ours, but it could be cable, whatever, VoIP, all that kind of stuff, don't really know their systems. There are some that do, but a lot of them really don't know their systems. Again, they're going to go through a tree of information with whatever equipment they're given, whatever software they're given, and it says, hey, if it's not doing this, you're going to do this. If it's not doing that, then go this way. If it's doing this, you do this. And so it's hard for anybody to learn when they're just following a script to basically do the same thing every time. And then when it gets beyond that point where all the stuff that they did doesn't work, then they'll move it up to somebody else. And a lot of times that might be where they call a Marvin in and say, hey, we need you to figure out what's going on here. And so he comes in and he saves the day and wears his Superman shirt or Man in the Van shirt, either one, and says, I'm here. The man in the van saved the day again. So, yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. But I can see it from both sides. All right. This is from John Tracy, USB boot drive. Hi, Jeff, longtime listener here. And firstly, I wanted to say what a great job you are doing and keep it up. Well, thank you, John. I couldn't do it without everybody that comes on here on a regular basis. If you guys just wanted to hear me ramble on, it would get boring mighty quick. I tried pretty much all of the USB boot time and wanted to try the best one I found, which is easytoboot.com. Yep, it allows you to just drop an ISO image into a folder, and once you boot to the USB, it builds a menu asking which is the one you want to boot. Hopefully this will help with some of the listeners. Thanks, John. Appreciate that, John. And there are a lot of people that talk about Easy to Boot. I played around with it a few years ago. Haven't played around with it since. I pretty much have stuff on either separate USB sticks at this point because they're so darn cheap, or I will have stuff on disks. Do you guys use any multi-boot systems for doing the stuff that you do on a daily basis? Anyone?
No.
Cricket?
No, flat out. Here's the thing: I don't have boot drives and all of that stuff. I have Tech USB. Right? That's the boot drive. That's the only boot drive that I have because I don't really do any type of repair here that's going to require anything else.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. What about you, Paco?
I've used Easy to Boot before. I ran into a couple issues with it before, so I ended up just using like what you do is either Tech USB and load my common ISOs that I have in there with their latest iteration of Tech USB, or I will just run it manually on other individual sticks that I got.
You know, it's funny because I'm probably a little bit old school. You know, back in the day, probably back in the early 90s. Yes, a long time ago for you kids out there. Back in the early 90s, I had to have a stereo, all my stereo equipment. And, you can't have everything all in one because that would just be weird. So you buy each and every component separately, from the amplifier to the cassette deck. Yes, I said cassette deck.
What's a cassette?
Shut up. The CD player or whatever you're going to hook up. So I had this rack of stereo equipment that I could set up with these big, huge speakers that took up my whole living room. Because, the living room was like 10 by 10. But it was cool, man. And we could rock that house out. But the reality is, as you get older, you like to make things a little bit more simple. And so you bring everything into one unit and forget all the rest of that stuff. But I think sometimes when it comes to technology, it can get a little overcomplicated to try, and I've tried it before, try to have everything all in one spot or use one tool to do everything. And it's tough. So part of what I do is I will have some of the tools using Easy to Boot or different things like that where it'll all bring everything all together. But a lot of times what I've done is I've just kind of separated things out, even though I might have a keychain full of USB keys, right? That I've got every ISO on there that I need, from Linux to Ubuntu to any of the Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7. No Windows XP anymore. Linux? What's that?
Wait, you use Linux?
The machine behind me actually is a Linux machine. It also has Windows 10 on it, but sometimes it's a Linux machine. Usually it's a Linux machine when I forget to go through the menu to get Windows 10 to boot up. But other than that, yes, I use Linux. Actually, Linux does some of my recoveries, low-level recoveries, because you can't see a drive sometimes in the Windows operating system, especially with your external drives, your USB drives, because of the firmware that is on there. Sometimes it will not allow the Windows operating system to see what's going on. So, but if you hook it up as a straight USB into a Linux system, that doesn't worry about the Windows structure, so it'll go in there and it'll see the files as raw, and you're able to copy the data over from there. So, yes, I do sometimes. Not very often, but sometimes. Anyways, all right, so let's go into, I I think we got everything, right? We got the emails, we got the voicemails. Appreciate everybody sending that stuff in. Keep it coming. We love hearing from you, and we love answering the questions and thinking differently, or let us know how screwed up we are. We don't care, but whatever. You can do that. That's your right. I also want to say, before we get started into our subject, that happy 4th of July. This is the day before 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, as we became independent many, many years ago. And appreciate all the sacrifice for all the men and women who have served over the years, and from the beginning till now. And it's what gives us our freedom, and we definitely appreciate that. So happy 4th of July. And please, 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 do not blow yourself up. And I'll just say that years ago I used to buy pyrotechnics of sorts, and I was at my parents' lake house, and me and my buddy were cool. We had our cigars and we're lighting the fireworks and stuff off. Yeah, until one of us kicked the tube and it aimed it straight at the house, at everybody on the deck. That was an awesome time. It was like roaches scattering when the light turns on. After that year, I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm not messing with fireworks anymore. So I don't. But I just go to the professional shows and watch them, because I'm usually way far away. If they blow themselves up, that's on them.
Is the house still standing?
Yeah, it still is. I can still see it in my mind's eye today. About freaked me out. But anyways. And nobody was hurt, thank God.
Good.
Anyways, we're going to talk about, real quick, and we've talked about this in the past, but I want to bring it up again, and our good friend Marvin actually brought this up as we were scrambling for a topic today, and that is the thing of firing a client. And I know a lot of you out there and go, oh, you don't want to fire a client, that's mean, and in this, political correct universe that we live in now, we don't want to do that. We want to, everybody's the same. We treat everybody, whatever. The reality is, there are sometimes that there are people that you can't work with, or maybe shouldn't be working with. And I'll give you an example. If you wake up and you have to go see a certain client, and your heart's racing 100 miles an hour, or you're just dreading the day that you're about to have, you might need to think about who you're working with. Because the reality is, it might not be worth your health and welfare to actually deal with certain clients. It's okay to say, you know what? It's not you. It's me. We're just not compatible anymore, and move on. But anyways, Marvin, why did you bring up that whole subject of firing a client? I think you had a story to go along with that.
Well, I did, and because you asked. But I was supposed to have a meeting on Friday with a customer who I just finished doing a new computer installation for them. They had, and I don't know how you guys will take this, they had an XP machine still. And
Okay.
it was their main accounting computer. And Chris, you'll love this. They're running QuickBooks Pro 2011.
Woo! 2011?
That got him off his chair.
So So I've been talking to them for at least 2 years to upgrade this Windows XP machine. It's a pretty important machine, I think. That's their bookkeeping machine.
Right.
And it's really not just one company. There are actually 3 companies in this one spot. They operate it as 3 separate entities. And so the system didn't want to turn on Monday morning. So I decided, well, here are the options. I can pick it up, look at it, let you know, and that's about all I can do. Long story short, the system would start about 50% of the time, and all I could tell him was, look, this thing could go at any time. It's probably the motherboard. I'm not going to research and try to find one for you. This machine needs to be replaced. And the owner looked at me and said, really? And I said, yes. And I've already told you all the reasons for the last 2 years. So she reluctantly agreed to have me do it. So I got the machine back, basically saved all their data, transferred it over, Fab's Auto Backup, and found a disk of QuickBooks 2011. Got that going for them. And went back over to their office, and the person had a HP Inkjet 722C.
Oh my gosh.
With a extra long parallel cable, and I said, we're not using that.
It's nuts. How's that thing still operating?
With love and patience.
Yes. So I took this as an opportunity to talk to the accountant lady, who is a relative of the owner. Because I've been having this nice little off and on battle with myself that it's time for me to let this customer go, fly, be who they need to be. Without me.
Free little bird.
Kick them out of the nest.
Oh my goodness.
And got some information that basically got me to the point where, yes, it's time to fire this customer. Now, let me explain a little bit more. This has been a customer of mine for almost 15 years.
Oh, wow.
They have the potential of being a very decent client. They just added a fourth business, which is technically not in the continental U.S., and if you've seen my Google Plus, you know where I've been over the last year taking care of this fourth business for them. However, they are a slow pay customer to where I may get paid within 60 days.
Oh.
And I basically have to tell them I can't do that anymore. They are a fast-paced business. They have very high expectations. When they have issues, they want them taken care of right away. And I finally had to ask the accountant lady, so, you know, you got to tell me what's going on. There are so many issues, and I can't go into all of them. But, you know, they've got high demanding employees, but the customer, you know, they won't go on a managed plan. Oh, let me explain this. So I present them with a managed plan, and she tries to tell me that, well, does it have to be every month all year? I said, yes. Well, we really only operate 8 months, so can you just charge us for the 8 months and then spread that out over the 12?
Oh,
What?
my.
Sorry, hold on. They wanted to do an 8-month commitment with you, but they wanted to pay for that 8-month commitment over 12 months?
Yes.
Can I have a 4-month discount, please?
So, you know, basically at this point, I'm done. I am done. And that was supposed to be the Friday meeting that they didn't even show up to.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
So it was just one of those things where I thought we should bring this up and talk about it again, because everybody always, you know, has these types of deals where you struggle with how do you handle a client. And like I said, this has been a customer for almost 15 years. They haven't always been as bad. They go through periods where they're fine. They pay, you know, within a week. Yes, they'll take care of stuff. They have no problem doing what I want to do. When it comes time to upgrade their servers, I really never have a problem. I invoiced them $22,000 last year for one installation that I went over to do. It was a server and 6 workstations. They paid that up front because they wanted it. So it's one of those things where, yeah, can I muddle through another year of, you know, this to get to another one of those? I just don't want to anymore. I'm tired. I'm frustrated, you know, and, you know, basically I have to look at myself and say, you know, what do I expect to get out of this customer over the next 5 years?
Right.
And it's not worth it to me.
So here's my question. How are you going to fire them? Because I have something similar, not as a long tenure as you. I have a client, that has gone between yearly retainers to on-demand service, back and forth. He has his times of being great. Other times it's one of those where it's like I look at the emails just wondering, is this going to be a good or bad email? So your client's been 15 years. How will you go about letting them know we're not going to support you anymore?
Well, I'm actually going to give them a choice.
Okay.
And the choice is, and I've kind of prepped them for this a couple of months ago, where I presented them with, when I presented them with the monthly maintenance agreement, of telling them, my business model has changed. We're not the type of company that you can just call anytime you want for, emergencies and then not talk to us in 6 months. Our company is in the business of network administration and support. And for us, administration means that we are in contact with you guys on a regular monthly basis, if not weekly. So we are going to have proactive maintenance on your computers. We're going to have remote access. We're going to have managed antivirus. We're going to have all these other things in place. We're putting a real backup system in place. We're putting in real switches, real fire. We're managing a network the way it needs to be managed. And so they've kind of gotten a little hint of that. And the way they got a big hint of that is the rate that I have been charging them for the last few years has kind of been a grandfathered in rate. So I gave them the new rate. Oh my God. And I said, that's the type of business that we are now and the types of businesses that we support. So the bottom line is going to be, there's not going to be a 4-month discount for their managed service. This is what it's going to be. And you have to maintain this level, pretty much the same thing we do with everybody else, but it's going to be a little bit more forceful. There is not going to be, we'd like you to be here, but we'll accept you here. No, it is going to be, you need to be here. You need to be here in 30 days, and you need to go on a managed maintenance plan with us. It's going to be this much. Take it or leave it.
And I think, too, a lot of people will look at that and they go, wow, that's leaving a lot of money on the table from, because, hey, I was able to replace their stuff, but they don't want to do any type of ongoing maintenance. But what they don't realize is what you said was it's frustrating. And it doesn't matter what level you're at, what you're doing. When it's frustrating to deal with somebody and it's really not within your business core of what you want to do in your business, you need to let some of those things go. And what will probably end up happening is maybe they will go, okay, well, we're going to do whatever it is you want to do, or maybe they let you go and they come whining back months later when things are really messed up and they don't know what to do. And then you can always make a decision at that point and figure out whether it is you want to have them back or you don't. And a lot of times you get a bad taste in your mouth for certain customers and you're just going to go, it's just not worth it.
Right. Because I've done the raising rates route, and they keep paying. so it's like,
Paco, that's because you need to double your rates.
I have.
See what? Oh, really?
That's my point. Like, well, okay, right. So my thing is like I've done that. Like I've doubled twice.
Wow.
And and it's not like Okay, so I don't care if he's watching anyway, but it's like it's $150 an hour was what I originally charged them. It doubled to $3, and then it went to $375. Now I'm assuming that I got to go back to, and it's like, and I spend and it's a law firm, solo practitioner, and it's one of those where I thought this would deter him from going with us, and he continues to pay because he just likes the demeanor and how I approach the things. But like you said, charge enough that you can kind of deal with it. But it's at the time now where it's one of those where I don't think any type of money would really help me deal with him in the sense of when he has his outbursts per se. So which I was curious on, how do you make that separation other than raising rates?
Well, let me ask you this. So outbursts as far as what? So what types of, don't have to be specific, but what types of things are making it so that you don't necessarily want to deal with this customer anymore?
There's a lot to list.
Just give us the quick highlights.
All right, quick
If you're
highlight.
okay with that.
Stuff you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what would be okay to say on the air. Because he's not the most formal client.
Just remember, this is a family-friendly show.
Right. That's kind of where it's at. But
Perfect.
Yeah, there have just been a lot of non-formal times where I have to address that these are both businesses speaking, not two individuals that he's speaking to someone in outside.
So communication, right?
Yeah, communication.
Communications.
Yes.
Okay, so it's like a bad girlfriend that treats you like crap and you're tired of it, right?
I guess you can essentially say that.
See, I've had those. The clients, not the girlfriend.
Bad girlfriends that treat you like crap.
Yeah. And I don't wind up
about.
with those very often because when I'm doing business with a person or a company, I don't know, we're Canadian, right? So, we're just nice to each other anyway.
Right. Except
yeah.
unless you're crossing the border, then it's different.
Unless you're crossing the border, well, we hire Americans for that. But we wind up. I wind up in a position where this has happened 3 or 4 times, I think, in the last. I don't know. Oh God, how long have I been doing this for? I can only think of 3 or 4 times where I fired a client because of the way that they treated me, and all 4 times it went down the same way. Where it's like, look, you know what? I don't treat you like this. I don't talk to you the way that you're talking to me right now. I appreciate that you're frustrated, but I deserve to work in an environment where I'm not being treated like dirt. So here's what's going to happen. This is my warning to you. I'm more than happy to continue it. I'm more than happy to take this situation and chalk it up as you having a bad day. And I'm going to put this in writing. If this happens again, we are not the company for you. Our company will not fit your needs. They understand exactly what I'm telling them, but I'm not being rude about it.
Right.
It doesn't happen a second time. It's happened a second time once. I don't have that client anymore. I had to block their phone number from our phone systems, but I don't have that client anymore.
You set up the expectations of what you were willing to deal with.
Correct, absolutely.
Right.
Because I'm not afraid. Here's the thing. I don't need to be abused for $129 virus removal.
Right.
That $130 is not worth it for me. Quite frankly, if I was charging them $300 an hour, it wouldn't be worth it for me to be abused if whatever it is that's happening with that client is so bad that you can't talk about it on air because it might offend somebody. There is no amount of money that's going to keep me with that client, and I will tell them directly, I will not be treated like this. I will not allow my employees to be treated like this because we deserve a safe work environment. We are not the company for you.
And
I always
Canadian.
give them a chance to fix it. What's that?
And we're Canadian.
And we're Canadian, right? So we don't have to do it that often. But it doesn't come down to that too. I mean, there's going to be times where the person wanting you to do work really doesn't fit in your business goals, and doesn't fit in the way that you want to do business, and you can't be afraid to tell them that same thing, right? We are not a good fit.
Well, and it goes along the lines of too. So let's take it down. Let's say it's not an abusive situation, but it's a situation where you give your client what you want them to have to best protect them from themselves and their employees. And you go in there and you say, hey, I'm looking at this. We really need to check this out. Not just because you want to make money. It's because really you want to protect their network, their machines, whatever. And so you go in there with the expectation of my job is to protect you from you. And if you're not going to follow the things that I want you to have, then that is not the type of business. Like Marvin said, his business has moved to a different level where he said, hey, we're not dealing with the stuff we used to. We're dealing with it in a different way at a higher tier, and you need to come along with us or find somebody else that can do what I was doing before.
Sure. And that's going to fall down to what you're comfortable with as the business owner, right? So, I am comfortable with a residential client where I've set them up with our managed service plan because these are what it covers. Now, you want to install my antivirus? I'm charging you for that virus removal. But
Right.
as long as you meet these minimum criteria, I will work with you. and that's the end of it, right? So I had a client, a mortgage broker, and that mortgage broker refused to move off of XP because the software that they used wouldn't work with anything above XP unless they paid something like $30,000 for the license for the upgrade.
Right.
You know what, dude? I completely understand. Housing market in Barrie sucks right now, and it's really hard to get mortgages in. I completely understand you not wanting to put in that kind of money into it. It's super unfortunate that I'm not willing to put the effort into fixing that computer for you anymore.
Right.
Because I'm not going to support outdated software on an outdated system. I can't do it, right? So there's going to be those times where you just have to say, look, this is the minimum. I want you on Windows 7 or higher, and if you can't do that, I'm not putting you on a service plan.
Yep.
You know, you have a printer that doesn't work, best effort support, but you're getting the minimum charge if I can't fix it.
Hey, do computers still have parallel ports on the back?
If you put them in. I'm sure I can find a card for it.
Actually, to be honest with you,
Was
if
it
you look at a lot of mainstream machines, actually some of them do actually still have parallel ports.
What's
I
parallel
understand what? Oh
What's a parallel port?
I'm kidding. It's like saying what's a
Of course,
contract.
he is hoping so
Why are
much
you
that you're
asking
actually serious.
Chris-type questions?
Listen, we've got this class called Computing 101
Yeah.
Computing.
or
right,
Printers
so-
101.
So to go back and
Oh, they got
answer,
internet on computers now? Sorry, go on.
so Paco, to answer your question about how I will go about that. Basically, everything comes down to a if-then, or if this, then that statement. As Chris was saying, everything is going to be laid out. Here are the minimum requirements that your network must be. Here's the rate we're going to do. Here's how we're going to respond. And anywhere along the line, if either party messes up, and that's the caveat, because they're going to have some say in the fact that if they feel that we're not meeting their needs, then they can tell that to us, and it's just an automatic, basic, okay, then I guess this isn't working out, we're done.
Yep.
And to take out the emotion, take out the personal aspect of it. This is just simply a business transaction. We're here to take care of your network. Either we do or we don't. Either you pay or you don't. Either you comply or you don't. I mean, those are the types of things that have to be set up. Chris, I did want to address your thing about addressing the person that had the outburst and telling them that, you'll just, toss it off to the fact that they had a bad day. I've had that happen where somebody yelled at one of my staff, and I called the company up, and I didn't even offer the aspect of, I don't care why it happened. I don't care if it's a bad day. It will never happen again, period, or we're done. That was it. There was no discussion. I didn't even give a recourse or anything like that. I don't talk to my employees that way. I don't expect you to talk to my employees that way.
Yeah.
And I think I did make one comment where I said the only time somebody can yell at the company is that if one of the owners wants to yell at me because we blew up a server or caused a fire or something along those lines.
Sure, you're going to eat crow, right?
Yeah. If that happens, you can yell at me. You're not going to yell at my staff, but you're going to yell at me. But and they're still my customer, actually. They're my number 2 customer, by the way.
Man, I'd be like, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
But yeah, that's what I'm doing. It's not a matter. I mean, I call it firing because basically I'm setting up the process to where if they don't comply, it's not even really, I don't have to make it an issue. I don't, it's, if this, then that. All right, we're done.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good point. And that makes it easier on both sides, where you're not having to feel like, you're the bad guy when you're quote unquote firing the client. Don't look at it as firing the client. You're no longer compatible is the thing. Your business has moved on, or their business has moved in a different direction, whatever it might be. They're not a good fit. And when it's not a good fit, you need to walk away and feel okay with that.
Right.
Now, Paco, the other thing is you talked about raising the rates, hoping that they would go away. at some point, you just have to get to a situation where what is it going to take for me to not do this business? Meaning, are you going to get to a number that I will support this customer if they're willing to pay this? And then if they want, if it's above that, I don't want it anymore. Sounds to me like you've already gotten past that number. You just didn't have the huevos to tell them to get lost.
You did not just say that on air.
I was trying to. I can't. I mean, because that's what it sounds like, and I have told people that we're done. You just find a way to say it, and if charging them $3.75 an hour still isn't making you happy, then it's not about the money. It's something else.
Paco, the other thing too that you said earlier, Marvin, is you also were putting things in place where you said you need to be up to this level of our support. So if you start adding those things together, again, it's all about you're there to protect the customer. If you set it up as such, you need to have these things in place because here's where my business is at right now. And a lot of people look at it, we're moving from break fix to MSP. I just threw up again.
That was that sound.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Anyways, so if you want to build things in there that you go, our business is moving in a different direction. Here's our support level that you have to have minimum wise on a regular ongoing basis. Because for this particular customer, Paco, is it more of you're just calling them kind of on demand versus having something set up ahead of time?
Right now, correct. Right now it's on demand. Previously they were on a retainer.
Okay. So
why did they go off?
Yeah, why did they go off? That's a good question.
Some moves, downsizing, et cetera, et cetera.
Then
I would say
you just lower the retainer. You don't drop them to break fix.
Right.
Well, I didn't want to deal with them on a constant basis, which is why I had the higher rate. Which is why I had the higher rate at the on-demand.
Gotcha. I would probably move them. If you didn't want to deal with them, I would probably move them back to say, listen, here's the minimum requirements that you need to have in place in order for me to support you going forward. Right. Again, then you're not the complete bad guy when you're doing that, right?
Right. Makes sense. And I do have eggs in the fridge.
Or you can basically say support is best effort, and for some reason just not be available for them because all of your other retainer clients have issues that you've got to take care of first.
There you go.
All the tickets that come in, just conveniently keep moving theirs to the back. And just say that, it's what was the formula? Somebody once told me that you can always, there's retainer, emergency is always going to be the first level. And then there's emergency, non-retainer would be the second level. And then retainer, non-emergency would be the third level. And then non-retainer, non-emergency would be the fourth level. So the customer is going to fall into one of those four categories. Well, if you've always got a customer that is on retainer with a ticket open, they can always be in charge of number 4.
There you go.
The question is, do you ever have a day where all of a sudden you have no retainer tickets, and then you've got to, okay, so now I can get to the level 4 client.
Right.
And if it takes you 72 hours, if they're willing to wait.
Very true.
Yep.
But if you've got the RMM tool that has a red X anywhere on the screen, that's a retainer client with an issue, right? Got to get rid of that red X first.
Right.
There you go. Well, guys, I think we have dealt with. I think this is a great subject, and I think we've dealt with it. And thank you, Marvin, for bringing out that subject and story with what you've had to go through. Because I think a lot of times there are people that are out there, and we've said this many times, I think, in the past, that are running around trying to please a client and probably not making as much from that client as maybe they would like, or that's actually any type of profit to them. But they feel because it's a piece of their pie, if they let that piece of the pie go, their business is going to go in a downward spiral. And I'm going to tell you right now that if you get rid of clients like that are not working with you well, that opens up your space to be able to take on clients that are going to better work with you and actually give you more money over time. So I think great subject, great topic, and I know a lot of people, again, don't want to talk about firing a client, but there are ways to do it where you just show that your businesses are not compatible anymore, and it's okay because they can go find somebody else that's maybe more compatible with them at that point and come groveling back to you later. Maybe, maybe not. And either way, you win.
Or I just give them to Andy. But anyway.
You know Andy probably listens to the show, right?
I highly doubt it, and I'm going to make sure that he listens to this episode.
I'm gonna send him an email that say, listen to show 190.
At minute yeah.
Anyways, great show, guys. Paco, love having you. Tell people where you're at, what you're up to, and what you got going on with that other show on that other network thing.
I'm in all kinds of stuff lately. But for those who want to speak to me directly, you can reach me on either the social medias. I'm getting back on Twitter a lot, LinkedIn, or the website, prodigytext.com. For those who are looking for more computer business information, I co-host the Computer Business Podcast with Matthew Rodella over at yfncg.com. We come out every twice a month, and normally we have some great content, which our episode coming up actually has the Podnutz crew because Matthew is away for National Guard duty, so he left the keys to the inmates, so I let the door open.
When the cat's away, the mice will play. Mm-hmm. And we had a great time. It was fun.
We did.
Very cool. Appreciate you coming out. And yes, definitely check out that show. Matthew and Paco bring on a lot of great guests that are some sets of outside the industry, inside the industry, and just different takes on things that they do for the computer repair industry. So it's an awesome resource, and he's got the YFNCG stuff over with the blogs, and Paco even writes now. And
I know, right? How about that?
I'm telling you, Paco came from this when I first met him, very uneducated, didn't really know how to read or write or anything, and now all of a sudden he's at this point where he's a podcast host and he's a writer, and it just happened overnight. It can be for you too. No, it's been great seeing. Right? Yeah, it's been great seeing all the stuff that you're a part of and that you do. And he's always out there trying to better the community overall in everything that he does. So definitely appreciate that. And Mr. Marvin Bee, where can people find you or your van? Oh wait, we gotta click on that there.
You can find me at maninthevan.net.
Maninthevan.net. Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And Mr. Chris Carruthers, where can people find out what you and your business are all about?
Well, you can visit us online, www.rstechteam.com. You can give us a call at 866-568-2813, or you can email us at info@rstechteam.com. Just a reminder to everybody, we're also still running the 25% bonus space on the SOS Online Backup reseller accounts. So if you're looking to get reseller backup accounts, you can start making some money. You get 25% extra space for either upgrading or starting up a new account.
Awesome. Very cool. Come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/Computer Repair Podcast Live. Join in on the conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. You can do all that from one web page over on podnutz.com. We have audio available over at podnutz.com, or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Computer Repair Podcast. Send your questions and feedback to podnutz@podnutz.com. We love hearing from you, and we love answering the questions and getting good topics to talk about. Or you can leave a voicemail with your lovely voice at 1-888-697-0162. And I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. Appreciate what you all are doing over there. If you guys are getting something out of this show and you want to support this show, you can support this show by going to patreon.com/Computer Repair Podcast, and we definitely appreciate it. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. All right. Wow. that show with where we didn't have a topic till the last second, and all of a sudden, an hour and a half later, man, we just love to talk, don't we? All right. Well, I think it's already 5:30, so I am going to go ahead and officially stop the live show. Appreciate everybody coming out, and we will see you next Sunday. How many more Sundays do we have left?
Why do you keep on making me do math?
I don't know.
You mean-
Somebody look
We
at
have
the
two,
calendar.
we have 2 more Sundays.
Before the unconvention?
Before the on-convention. We got 2 more Sundays.
Right, the 10th and the 17th.
Okay. 2 more Sundays, and then we will hopefully see you all live at Toronto. All right. Have a great week. Talk to you later.